Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Financial Wealth Community. So, today we are talking about financial and personal benefits of multiple streams of income. And we're also going to be look at some considerations when you are looking to have that extra source of income. Now, today I have with me the lovely Tiara, and Tiara is all things creative. I'm going to let Tiara introduce herself to you. Welcome, Tiara. Thanks for coming and having this conversation today.
Thanks, Jackie, for having me. So, as you mentioned, yes, I am a creative. I consider that a superpower to be a creative. I am a writer, an editor. I help other people with their writing and editing. I'm a book editor, book coach, which means book editing is clear, book coach, helping people who maybe have an idea about a book they would like to write, book mentor for people who already written books, especially in middle grade, YA. That's really my main focus, but also people who are writing business books, just really the whole spectrum. And in addition to that, I'm basically a storyteller at heart. Everything that I do has a story behind it, or helping people tick a lot, because I feel that everyone has a story to tell in every aspect of their lives. So that's something that's really core to who I am, either identifying my own story, accompanying it as it changes, or helping other people when they approach me find either their real story in decorating their homes, bringing out a story, or helping them actually write stories to tell other people.
And I really do like this. I love this conversation because I've known you for a few years now and we've become good friends. And for me, the creative side of my brain is not where I think it should be. I'm all practical, I'm financial, as you know. And so even having this conversation and we're talking about multiple streams of income, I've done a video on this before, but I mainly focus on the financial side. What I love about you is you brought in something different to the conversation already just by saying the personal benefits of having multiple streams of income. Let's talk about the personal benefits because people may see the financial but not the
Mhm.
personal. Talk to me
Yeah,
about that.
absolutely. So, I think a lot of times people identify with their day job. I don't do that. I'll just put that out there. But
Mhm,
I've seen it happen. And I'll start with my day job is I'm a speech writer, a ghostwriter for someone else.
mhm,
And it's my job, it's what I do, but it's not all of what I do. Now, when I look at diversifying my income, and I have a couple of streams of income, most of them revolve around writing, but
mhm.
not the same type of writing. Yeah, of course, in a perfect world, I imagine myself as, best-selling author still to come. Don't need, just imagining it. Absolutely,
Put it out
putting
there.
it out there, putting it out there for the universe to hear, but continuing my writing. And that's something, like I said, storytelling writing. It's something that's intrinsic to who I am and very important.
Mm.
But I'm able to, in addition to my day job, work with people who want to write books. So I'm always surrounded by words. I get to meet incredible people who have incredible stories, who are passionate about what they're doing. I've worked with people who are writing books about coaching, people who are writing books about Egyptian dance, people who are writing books about a spiritual journey, people who are writing books about accounting, all kinds of things, and people who are writing, fiction books, fantasies about dragons and castles, and to see people's imaginations, and even in these nonfiction stories, these books, it's still a story that's told from that person's point of view, and I love that journey with people. So that enriches me. Getting to
Mm.
know these people, experiencing these stories firsthand, and also when I'm working with people who are looking just to maybe do something different in their homes, just to sit down with them and say, who are you? Let's talk about you. And again, getting to know that person, their journey, and then helping them define their own story and being a part of that, it's just one of the best things in the world.
I love that. Because yeah, like I said, it's not something I've considered having but absolutely it does have personal benefits thinking about it now and diversifying and doing different things. I mean, yeah, okay, I'm an accountant by trade,
Mhm.
but I've also delved into coaching now. I've done different things and I've never thought of it like that. And it definitely is a holistic thing. And it
Yeah.
definitely has enriched my life more just by meeting different people who maybe I wouldn't have met before, for example. I mean, us accountants are supposed to be really boring, right? I do not consider myself one of those.
No,
And
absolutely
I
not.
think that's how I've benefited, right? By diversifying and doing other things. Thank you. That's really, really good. So another thing you spoke about, so when we spoke, or when no, actually when we speak about multiple streams of income, a lot of people think that means now they have to start hustling, right? Where they're going to find the time to do this, to do that, and to do talk about that. How can we have multiple streams of income without feeling like we're in that hustle culture?
Like I was saying earlier, I think it kind of depends on what your starting point is.
Mm,
So, speaking for myself from my point of view. So I am a creative at heart and soul. I wake up every morning, I see words, I feel music. That's where I get my joy. However, I go to my day job, not that I don't get joy from my day job, but it's a whole different thing. So I'm able to do my day job very, very well. And then that security that I have, that foundation, that financial foundation, it gives me the freedom that when I shut down one laptop and I can pop open the other one, or I can say, okay, right, now I'm going to go out and do something in the garden, or I'm going to draw or put something together. It really enhances my sense of self,
mm,
definitely. And it doesn't have to mean the hustle culture. So I think a lot of people think I've got this day job, now I need another job. I've got my 9 to 5, now I need a 5 to 9. I need something else, but you don't have to. There are passive ways of doing that. One of those ways that we've talked about on several occasions, and I work with people, writing a book. And I
mm,
hear people say, but who's going to listen to me? I'm like, but look at all the other books on the bookshelf. Someone's listening to them. Why not? Your voice matters just as much. And if you feel you're an expert in an area, you got to follow. You have people who you think will benefit from this or want to hear from you. Why not? So
mm,
things like, writing a book, or even just engaging with people. If you're a writer, I'm really focusing on that because that's my area of specialty. Saying, hey, I can write some content for you. You have a friend who, someone comes to you and says, I'm doing a web page. Can you help me? Sure, I can look over it. I can do the edits for it. Or maybe it's a situation where in your spare time, you like to draw. Or I think we talked about the fact that you have a lot of musicians in
mm,
your life.
mm,
I know people who work at the company that I work at, and on Fridays,
mm,
the gig is on. They
mm, mm,
drop the tie at 5 o'clock, they go home, they eat their supper, they grab their guitar, they're going to the local pub, and they're like, okay, and they do their set. And
mm.
that's what they do.
And
And
it
it's not
brings them enjoyment. Say it
enjoyment.
doesn't feel like it's a hustle because it's something they love to do.
Absolutely.
And I think more and more as I read more about neuroscience, and I'm not going because I'm no expert on that, but the creative side is really important for us to be
Mhm.
able to do something creativity that brings us joy. But imagine getting paid for that as well, right? Which is exactly what
Exactly.
we're talking about. Win, 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 right?
Absolutely. And there's no hustle. And, I'm a little skeptical of the, love what you do what you love. We don't always have those options.
Mm,
But if you are solidified already on that foundational financial basis, why not do
mm,
something that you've always wanted to do, and maybe even something that you don't yet know how to do, but always wanted to learn, and then you learn it and then implement it and then can also make money from that? Because the people who are out there making money, we've all learned something at some point. It's not
yeah,
like everyone wakes up with this inherent talent.
yeah,
Why not? Make a
yeah.
decision, learn something new.
Mm, I agree, definitely. And even just talking about that, whether, with the creative space, because I know a lot of creatives who
Mhm.
are full-time creatives find it difficult in managing their income because obviously there's peaks and there's lows, right? And then
Yeah.
sometimes they will have to then go and find a job, and it tends to be a job, something they don't want to do,
Mhm.
right? So what you're almost saying to me, or what I'm picking up, is you can do it the other way around. You can still have that day job doing something that you do like to do. You may not love it, it may not be your forever job, but whatever. But then, like you said, on Friday at 5 o'clock, you get to be this other person, right? And go off and do whether it's your paintings or your writing, as you said, or whether you are music playing a musical instrument, or singers, right? You go off and be able to do these gigs. So, but you need that foundation, as you said, because when you
Yeah.
don't have, so you can tell me what this is like, when you don't have that foundation, so you don't have that main job or that main source of income,
Mhm.
and you're a creative, how easy it is for your creative juices to still flow when you're stressed out about not being able to pay your bills.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, I've spent most of my life in corporate, and there have been moments where I'm like, okay, I've got this. I'm just going to do the creative side. And I would say, unless you're at the very, very top of your game as a creative, this is maybe subjective for me to say this, but there are very, very few, even though we seem to see all the Hollywood stars or all the singers and TikTok and pop stars. But if you really look at the people that we see and the amount of people who are trying, they're like the 0.1% at the
Mm,
very top there. Um, it is stressful. And when you're going from project to project, gig to gig, and when you're in the middle of one, you already have to have two or three lined up. And if something happens and one falls out, and you're like, ooh, it's always in rotation. There's never a moment where you can really just say, it's 5 o'clock and I'm done. Because
mm,
at 5 o'clock, you're like, okay, I need to send this email out. And the creative juices, it can really suffer because at
mm.
some point you don't have the freedom if you're not making enough to pay the bills to support yourself. That creative freedom, those juices, they kind of stagnate because you have to. Because if you don't,
And then
yeah,
panic sets in. So then you will go and, like you said, you'll find two or three jobs, but all these two or three jobs, none of it is what you really want to do, right? Because you're almost just grasping to get that income in. Yeah.
yeah. Or then you start the hustle. Then
Mm,
you're like, okay, someone offers you something and it doesn't completely align with your values. You're like, what are
yeah.
they
In
paying?
there.
Oh, I'll take that. And then the next thing comes, and before you know it, you've got 36 hours worth of 20 in 24 hours to do because you're panicking. You're like, I need to have the next thing. I'm being offered all these things. They start overlapping. So you can really get caught up in that hustle economy when you
Yeah.
are reliant upon, only this creative work. And I don't want to say when you're not good at it, but when it's not being recognized and you're not being honored for it. Because there's lots of people out there who are super good at what they do. They are
Mm,
better even than some of the things that we see, but it's about being at the right place at the right time. And if you don't have that luck, yeah, it can be hard.
yeah. Yeah. I get that. Okay. So give me some considerations then for this passive income. I know we've spoken about a few of them already, but let's be a bit more specific for this passive income. And even for some of us who don't consider ourselves as a creative, right? Maybe like myself, for example. I mean, we've definitely spoken about the book, and that's definitely something I'm looking to pursue. So
Mhm.
give me some other, or give the listeners some other ideas of what we would call true, because not everything is passive. Some people say passive income and you still have to work for it. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about where you put in the work once and then it can bring you an income with you sleeping. That's the
Yeah.
type of passive income I'm talking. And you said one, the book. Absolutely, a book is one.
Exactly. So, writing a book, then it's out there and it's working for you. It's your business card or people are buying it or not, but it's just out there and you wake up one day and you're like, someone else bought something. Creating art, that's also something. If it's something that you like to do anyways, take it to a gallery. You have a couple of paintings that you've done. You're not necessarily working to commission. You've got some items, take them and give it to someone else to do the work for you. Trying to think of outside of the creative space of something that's really that could be passive.
So,
Um,
and it's fine to say like something like writing, for example, because there's different types of writing.
mm,
You don't have to be a creative per se to do writing. So, for example, someone like me, I could be doing blogs, for example, right?
absolutely.
About my expertise. So it could just
Hmm.
be that you have an area of expertise and you can write about it. And maybe if you don't think the writing's good enough, you could get someone like yourself, for example, to look it over. And then you can
Absolutely.
put that piece of work out there. I mean, people make money from blogging, right?
They make money from blogging and also being a speaker. And I think people don't consider that a lot of times. Like if you consider yourself an expert in your field, and that can always be challenged. Someone can say, what makes you an expert? And I'm
Mm,
thinking, if you've been working in your field successfully for 20, 25 years,
mm,
I,
exactly.
I don't necessarily need someone else to say I'm an expert because most experts are self-proclaimed
Yeah,
unless you are really, in the spotlight. So
yeah,
even being
true.
a speaker, even volunteering, even stepping out of your comfort zone and saying to your friend, hey, I
Hmm.
want to do a podcast. Not this is there's no financial gains here whatsoever. That's not what I
Yeah,
mean. But approaching someone else saying, hey, I've got this topic and
yeah,
I've been following your podcast. Let's have a conversation. Literally, it takes the 30 minutes of your time because you're the expert already. You don't have to prepare for that. And then maybe you
exactly.
take that content and you can write it up somewhere, or that leads to something else. Reuse the things that you're doing for other things.
And
Why
that
not?
is passive. People do find you. I mean, YouTube is a channel that people may not listen today, but in 10 years' time, that content can still be there and someone be listening to it. And actually, you can still make money from it that way as well, right? So it
Absolutely.
doesn't always have to be immediate income that's coming in, but it's still passive because you've put the content out once and
Yeah.
then you don't know what will happen from it. And also, if it is something that your content that you put out that you charge for the content, then that
Mhm.
makes it passive because obviously you're not having to redo it all the time. It's just coming in. So and it is, isn't it? It's about thinking out of the box. We need creatives like you more to help us to think outside of the box and get outside of this rigid way of thinking we have to do
Mhm.
things, right?
Glad to help.
So tell me, what would you leave? So what would you say for someone who's considering this, the multiple streams of income?
Mhm.
What would you say is a starting point for them to think about? And you said the foundation is about having that, maybe if you don't, if money's an issue, having that foundation so that you don't have stress and it frees you up. What would kind of be the next step, would you say?
I think something that's really important is to really know who you are. And
Mm,
that sounds simplistic, and someone might ask, what does that have to do with, getting a multiple, another source of income? To avoid getting caught up in that hustle and end up doing things you don't want to do. If you're not the type of person who likes to collaborate, and then all of a sudden you're working on something because it pays well, but it's a big collaboration project, you're not going to be happy with it, and it's going to do probably more harm than good.
mm,
If you have something, you're the type of person, you need your freedom. You need to know yourself, what your values are, what you're willing to do and not willing to do, so that you don't just start accepting any old thing
mm,
because you think this is going to be it. This is going to get me to six figures in addition to my day job.
mm.
That's the starting point for me to really know who you are, what you like, what you want to do.
I love that. That's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the other things is, I think I already mentioned this, be curious. Really sit down with yourself, look around. What do you like to do? Do you love to read?
Mm,
You can get actually paid for reading manuscripts. You can become a reader at a publishing house. If you're an avid reader, you read all the time anyways. If you love to read books, write reviews. People will start sending you, publishers will notice. There's a thing called NetGalley where you can sign up and say, hey, I've done all these reviews. Oh, there's a debut coming out or there's a novel coming out. You're looking at people to give reviews. Can I get that beforehand? You can get novels 6 months before anyone else sometimes.
wow.
And
And
you're
this is
not
the
even,
things that people need to know because you're right.
yeah.
If you're reading anyway, get paid for it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, so for some of the things you don't get paid for, but like being a reader someplace at a publishing house, you can get
Okay.
paid for that.
Hmm.
But even, when we talk
But
about,
it's finding yourself as well, though, isn't it? It's not
yeah,
just the financial payoff we're talking about. We're talking about the personal benefits as well.
and, I think having we need money we want money to purchase things. It's about things.
Hmm.
Why else? Just having money in account, it's not about that. And imagine you're a person, and normally in a month, you're buying like 10 books.
Hmm.
Hey, that's money. If you're
Hmm.
talking even, 10 pounds a book,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a lot of money. Imagine if you didn't have to pay for those books. You are still able to satisfy your desire to read a lot and widely things maybe you never would have read before. And you get to read these proofs. Granted, they're not always the final book, but you get to read that and you're satisfying something as well. It's a win-win.
So for me, that is about money because I tell you why. So if you have in your budget, guys, okay, £100 for you to read books, People do
Mm,
that. They put that in their budget. You want to buy a certain amount of books or whatever it is. Imagine that £100 now you don't have to spend it on reading books because now you're getting the books, as you said, via the other way. That £100 can go on something else. So it's still about money.
yes.
You know, I'm going to bring it back there.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's so positive. Is there anything else you want to say before we round this up?
Yeah, I think it's super important to I think you mentioned this as well, to think long term.
Mm,
Also not get in the trap of today, tomorrow I need 5,000 because I want to go on this trip and now I'm going to take on 3 jobs. It's not about that. It's really and starting off as soon as possible. I
mm.
wish that I had met you, and I'm gonna tell my age now, about
Likewise.
about 30 years ago. I wish that there had been a Jackie Stewart in my life 30 years ago to say, hey, you got this job you're doing, but I noticed that you really like to do this. I have an idea for you, and you can make some income from that. And not necessarily approaching it only with the aspect of, I'm going to make money from it, but it gives me joy as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Imagine that
yeah,
double factor
yeah.
of getting joy from it. So I really wish that I had started this earlier, but I'm so grateful to be on this journey now for the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just kind of pooling together, the extra income. It brings me joy. But in the long run, this could be something where I look at my day job and say, you know what, as great as this is, I'm going to pull back a little bit from that and then try and invest a little bit more time in this. Or I need to invest more time in this because, hey, this is taking off, but
Mm,
not on the first instance when it starts to take off because it can fluctuate.
mm,
Let it ride, look at it, evaluate
mm.
over a year or two, see when the highs or lows are. Can you really maintain that? And then start, this one starts coming down, this one starts going up. And then before you know it, perhaps, doesn't always happen, you can dedicate all your time, more time to this thing that was your second source of income. But keeping in mind, once that becomes your main, get
Yeah,
another.
that's the thing, isn't it? Right. That's how I did it, working corporately and then literally reducing my hours slowly over the period of
Mm,
a year or two, and then increasing my business because that's the way to do it because you just don't want to get to the stage where there's no source of income because we know what that stress can do
yeah,
and what it can do to our bodies as well. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with that.
yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been a really good conversation, Tiara. What I'm going to do is I'm going
Yeah.
to put all your contact details. If people want to know more about you, I'm going to put that in the description. So, guys, head to the description. Also, subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel. And what I want you to do is share this. All of us know people in our families or friends just around us who will benefit, especially not just creatives, but especially if you do have creatives. Why not share this video with them so they can understand how they can start to have multiple streams of income and get that passive income flowing? Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you so much for coming, Tiara, and I'll see you on another video.
Thank you, Jackie.